Welcome to worship with the Universalist. We're there. All right. I'm so glad that you are here with us this morning. I'm so glad we were able to take this time and this moment together to gather in community, to share joy, comfort, and sometimes challenges. This is an intentional community gathered around our shared promise to support each other's spiritual journeys. So let us worship together all gender identities, all sexual orientations, politics. Oh yeah, even the politics. And may we root ourselves in the values of this faith: compassion and courage, transcendence, justice, transformation, and service. And I'd especially like to welcome any guests we have today, any folks who are new, are just starting to get to know us. It is truly something to enter into a space for the first time or the first few times and say, how shall I be here and who is going to be at the table with me? I just don't know, but I am willing to be present. And part in our relationships and our recognition is also that we recognize our history, where we come from, because we are on the ancestral home of the Peoria people. They welcomed the settlers down the Illinois River, and we honor the Peoria people for who they were and for who they are today. I offer a note or two about how we are together this morning. I invite you to put your respective devices into worship mode. And also, I want to recognize that we have a couple of changes this morning. I want to welcome Colin Corbett, who is our pianist with the choir this month, next month. Thank you so much, Colin, really. So we have a couple of notices for today. One, that in case you didn't know, we have a soup lunch that is being created by our children and youth in religious education and respective useful adults. Adults, they're useful, they can be useful, sure. And so this lunch is to benefit our school outreach program, where there's many different things that we work with the Pleasant Valley Middle School, including on weeks that we pack, that we send home about 75 bags of food to support 70 families from that school. And we could provide more if we were able to do more. So this lunch, I want to encourage generous donations and taste the soup. I have no idea. I'm kind of curious how this is going to go. This is great. And there's a little baking and other donations from members. So thank you very much for supporting this effort as well. Next Sunday is the congregational meeting. Our fall congregational meeting will be after the service. So I invite folks to be there. We'll be asking the members to vote on the social impact projects that are going to be proposed. And there will also be a financial update and some conversation about safety and security as well. So please join us after the service. Oh, join us for service and join us for after service next Sunday. And now we have a new surprise announcement. We have an unexpected bonus announcement for today. Because after long last and a lot of job postings, I am so happy to announce that we have a new membership coordinator. I know. And let me invite Linda Fairbanks up to join me, and also Linda, and also Regina, would you be willing to come up?
And she's here.
And she's here. I'm staying away from all the people. So I want to invite you to welcome and greet. We have Regina Stanley. She has been active, comes to us with experience in running an office, comes to us with experience at Imago Dei as a volunteer. Am I not? All right, we're going to be here. She has experience running office. She has experience as a volunteer at Imago Dei congregation. And she saw our listing and thought, that's what I want to do next. And so it's really a joy to be able to welcome Regina with us today. Linda, do you want to say anything else?
Yeah, it was a pleasure to go through the process. We followed the application, posting, interviewing process, and I want to thank Martha DeBold, who helped Rev Jennifer and I with the whole process. So a lot of moving pieces when you do the hiring, and it took a lot of work. But I think the reward is that we have, I think, just the right person at the right time for our church. And I will be hanging out with Regina after church and doing some introductions. So if you want to meet her, she has a tiny human with her too, which I know you will all want to meet. And I'm sure she will want to meet the kids here too. So I don't want to put you on the spot, Regina, but would you like to say anything?
Hello, I am very excited to get to know everybody.
See, there's a reason to come to church. You never know what's going to happen on a Sunday morning. Good things, good things. All right. And now you please join me in our opening hymn, number 51, Lady of the Seasons, Laughter. Will you please rise in body or spirit and join me as we sing together. It's the only constant, and all that change is. It's the passing of things. It's the passing of all things. Change is. It is the becoming of all. It is a parade, this change is. It is a dance, this change is. It is the river and stepping that's never twice. It is the tragedy of all that was, this change is. It is the fear of all that is, this change is. It is the hope of what may yet be, this constant, this change. This ice to water, this day to eternity, come to the river, step, step, step. Let me invite Mary up for offering our chalice today.
Here today in this place with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. And may we know so that we can change ourselves in this world. May this chalice we light our way.
And let me invite us to hear a good song from our choir this morning.
Justice was our battle, and how justice was denied. Make them hear you, make them hear you. And say to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles which are more than black or white. And I could not put down my sword when justice was my right. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Go out and tell a story to your daughters and your sons. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. And tell them in our struggle we were not the only ones. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. Your sword can be a sermon or the power of the pen. Teach every child to raise his voice, and then, my brothers, then will justice be declared in light and million righteous men. Make them hear you. When they hear you, I'll be near you again.
In a world full of changes, there are some things which remain the same. And one of those is the work of the church. The work of the church always includes love and growth and service and welcome. We always are called to prepare to meet our friends and our neighbors and our fellow travelers in every moment and at any stage of life. And as we take a collection during worship, this is partially our effort to make tangible our readiness to give form to what we shall construct together, to always make space, to always be available for service, to encounter, and thereby add to the wholeness of the world. So as part of our generosity, our practices, is to send some of our offering into the world. In fact, we have a share the plate practice in this congregation where half the undesignated offering goes to a named recipient and half goes to the workings of the church. The Social Impact Committee chose to start with the New Mexico Coalition for Reproductive Choice. They are working with partners in Texas, including those at First Unitarian Church in Dallas, to cover the costs of transportation and abortion services for people from Texas. And the Texas Coalition for Reproductive Choice tries to help as many people as they can. It costs about $1,000 a person to cover all of the related costs. The Social Impact Committee is also putting together a list of local recipients that will start about January 1st at this point. So if your offering is toward a pledge, please indicate that in the memo line or on the offering envelope. So again, half the undesignated plate goes to our Share the Plate recipient and half goes to the church. Thank you so much for all of the generous gifts that you offer, because every bit that we share together makes so much more when we bring that together and can be living into our mission of embracing freedom, loving inclusively, growing in mind, body, and spirit, and adding to the healing of the world. So the ushers will pass the plates. Then after the plates have passed, we'll be during our music for meditation. That will be a time when you can come forward and light our candles of care. And so now the morning offering will be gratefully received. Will the ushers please come forward? You are beloved and you are welcome here. Whether tears have fallen from your eyes this past week or gleeful laughter spilled out of your mouth, whether you are feeling brave or brokenhearted, defiant or defeated, fearsome or fearful, you are beloved and you are welcome here. Whether you have untold stories buried deep inside or stories that have been forced beyond the edges of comfort, whether you have made promises, broken promises, or are renewing your promises, you are beloved and welcome here. Whatever is on your heart, however it is with your soul in this moment, you are beloved and welcome here. Now is the sharing of the joys and sorrows of the congregation. We offer our heartfelt sympathy to Pat Harris and all other friends and family who are mourning the loss of Mary Lawler, who passed away on October 30th. We offer sympathy to Harry Elger as he grieves the loss of his brother, Robert George Elger, Jr., who have died at age 70 at St. John's Island, South Carolina. He passed on September 1st. And we also offer our sympathy to Amy Pop and Mitzi Nietzsche, who mourn the recent passing of the wonderful big black dog, Onyx. Onyx. We offer our caring and support to Carol Lowe as she settles into Accolade Healthcare. Carol welcomes visitors and welcomes cards. If you want to know the address that's in the weekly email, or you may contact the church office. And that's where all mail should be directed to Carol at this point, too. In our larger world, let me offer a note about this day, the events that will come on Tuesday. It will be, it is already a sacred day of choosing. We offer gratitude to those who entrust us with such an honored task, who struggled and suffered that we might have the power to choose. May we choose well. May we choose love over fear, wisdom over cleverness, courage over cowardice, life over death, kindness over callousness, and faith over cynicism. May we know that we choose not just for today, but for so many generations to come. May we know that we decide not only for ourselves and our own, but on behalf of all the earth, its peoples and creatures and waters and lands. We seek humility to know our own shortcomings and uncertainty, even as we accept the responsibility to decide the fate of others. May we weigh our choices with full awareness of how precious is all we hold. As we ourselves are weighed and tested by the choices we make, may we be found worthy. May we choose leaders who will strive to do justice, love mercy, walk humbly. And may we find in each other qualities worthy of our trust and respect. Let us hold one more moment in quiet. For all that is around us, all that is before us, all that is within us. Let us hold one more moment of quiet together. Amen and shalom and namaste. For the story today, I turn to one from my colleague Kelly Weissman Aspruth Jackson called Mouse and Crow. Mouse and Crow. And so we begin. There once was a crow who was very hungry. So flying over the tops of the trees, it spotted a large, tasty walnut growing from the very top of the tallest branches. And seeing the makings of a fine supper, the crow swooped down and plucked the dangling walnut and held it triumphantly in his beak. The crow flapped its wings happily, thinking about how best to break open the shell of this walnut. Now, meanwhile, on the ground below the crow was an equally hungry mouse, saw everything that had happened and decided it wanted the same walnut for itself. And with a plan that was clever, though not particularly nice, the mouse called up to the crow high in the tree, "Say there, friend crow, what's that you have in your beak?" And the crow, hungry enough by now that it wasn't thinking everything quite through, called back, "I've found a very nice walnut and I am going to eat it." But when the crow opened its mouth to say all of that, the walnut fell out and dropped to the ground just as the mouse hoped. But the mouse didn't count on where the walnut would land, where it fell. That wasn't part of the plan. The walnut landed on the ground and rolled into a shallow hole. The mouse ran to the hole, reached in to pull the one walnut so that it could crack the shell and have a wonderful meal. But the hole was just small enough that the mouse could not pull out the walnut. And with both of its paws wrapped around it, the walnut was too wide to get back up out of the hole. And the crow, meanwhile, unhappy at having been tricked out of its supper, began to shout at the mouse down below, who couldn't leave because it's still holding on to the walnut, trying and failing to pull it out of the hole. Now, perhaps if the two of them had worked together, they might have gotten to enjoy some of that walnut, even though the mouse had kind of tricked the crow. That wasn't really very nice. But the crow could have pecked its sharp beak down the hole, broken up the walnut into little pieces. The mouse could have reached in, picked out each of the pieces. And instead, they were both stuck there, arguing with each other. Can you imagine this? Here's the crow flying up there. Here's the mouse, stuck. And they're both still hungry. The mouse, because it couldn't let go, and the crow, because it couldn't hold on. I wonder if there's a time when you have been the mouse. I wonder if there's a time when you have been the crow. I wonder what it feels to be stuck. And I wonder what happens next. Thank you for joining me for the story. And now We will still sing because we love to sing. In case there's anybody who needs to go help with the children and youth making the chili, this is a great moment. So let us sing. Go now in peace. I'd like to invite Helen Martin up for our reading.
I Say It Touches Us by Marnie Harmony, adapted from Becoming a Spiritual Guide for Navigating Adulthood. I say that it touches us, that our blood is seawater and our tears are salt, that the seed of our bodies is scarcely different from the same cells in a seaweed, and that the stuff of our bones is like the coral. I say that the tide rolls in on us, whether we like it or not, and the sands of time keep running their intended course. I say we have to go down into the waves' trough to find ourselves and then ride her swell until we can see beyond ourselves into our neighbor's eye. I say that we shall never leave the harbor if we do not hoist the sail. I say that we have got to walk the waves as well as solid ground. I say that anyone who goes without consciousness of this will remain chained to a rusty anchor. May the journey find us worthy. Amen.
I'd like to invite Michaela Thomas for our second reading.
Who cast a spell over my world, who opened the doors, steered the crowd of possibilities, put gold dust in my dreams, causing my life to turn. O faith, O love, O spirit, O God, it is true. All the good things must come to an end. Or have you set me on a path of meaning? No luck, no, of clarity, not magic. This grace that brought me to the mountaintop has also assigned me to carry through dark forces of loss, the one that awaits us all, that disturbs our peaceful sleep. The same grace that guides the seasons, cracking the ice, pushing up the saplings, scattering the earth with its first dramatic leaves.
Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing our hymn, number 86, Blessed Spirit of my life. Please be seated. Many of you know, I think, that my first ministry was in Alabama. I went from growing up in Massachusetts, all of my education there, nearly all of my life in the Bay State, and went from there to the Deep South. That transition was my biggest leaving home moment. The decision included making a pro and con list, which I think I actually have someplace still. One side, all the pros for going to Alabama, and the other side, all the reasons to stay in Massachusetts. And all the pros filled the side. Going to Alabama, all the pros filled that side. And the reasons to stay in Massachusetts were like two little tiny items at the top. So it was really clear. I mean, it was clear. And this is also it was 1 year. It was supposed to be 1 year. It was an interim year. And it was a college town. I'm a big fan of college towns. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. Roll Tide. Oh, that was be football, in case you don't know. There's my one sports reference, right? Football. All right. To go to this new ministry, this starting out, I had just been ordained by the congregation where I grew up. I had spent years getting ready to go forth into parish ministry. And so I did. And it meant that I left the land I loved. The hills, the ocean, the cities. I left my family. Nearly all of my family was in New England. I left all that I had known and went to Alabama. I mean, this is Southern. The congregation's address is New Watermelon Road. No lie. And there is a Watermelon Road. I'm just saying. So I'm like, oh my goodness. And, I had lots of encounters just in the process of getting there. While looking for an apartment, I had my first experience with fire ants. Ow. That fall, not too many weeks after I had arrived, I had my first experience with southern cockroaches. They're politely called palmetto bugs. That's a lie. Big suckers. And these grasshoppers, these black grasshoppers that are truly this big, like this big, truly. I'm just saying. Ugh. Oh my gosh, the world around me was just not right. I'm in Alabama, this is just not right. And just all of those pieces further enhanced the realization of what I had left. It further enhanced the distance. But it certainly helped. It certainly helped to have to talk about change. I mean, that was my job. As an interim minister, I was helping the congregation prepare I was their first full-time minister. I was helping them prepare to search for a new person who would stay for a long time. I asked them, I had the sense in that moment, I asked them to show me what they loved about Alabama. And they did, and it was such a gift. But it was a significant change. I found a very helpful analogy. I think this idea that the soul travels at the speed of a camel, which is something like 3 days to travel 100 miles. And so I had arrived, I had started in mid-August and did the calculation of the mileage, something like 1,000 miles, give or take. So I was able to understand myself and convey to the congregation that my soul will arrive sometime in like October. And that was okay. It also helped that many of the members of the congregation had relocated from other places in order to work for the University of Alabama. You know, I left a place that had been so good and so good in my life, knowing that I might not ever live in New England again. What had been was no longer. My relationship with what I considered home was forever changed. As we enter into this month and the theme of change, I want to invite us to pay attention to the nature of cycles and changes and patterns and their impact on us. Very much is very much a part of this understanding, is very much a part of how we grasp what is going on for ourselves as individuals and as a congregation and the world as well. So I wanted to spend a little time on change, the nature of change. Because any change, any kind, large, small, begins with a shift. It begins not with the beginning, what comes next. It begins with an ending. It starts with what has been, what was. Something stops before something new starts. And it's true for all aspects of our lives, whether we want it or not, whether the change is desired or volunteered or not. You know, I know over the past number of months, recent months, one of the things that I've been saying, and Linda Fairbanks, our board chair, has been saying, and other ways we've been saying, is this isn't 2019 anymore. It's not the most pleasant thing to say. It's not fun in some ways. It's not necessarily great to even hear, and I recognize that. The church, the world around us, none of us are what we once were 3 years ago. Whoa, 3 years ago. So much has happened since then, individually, collectively, globally. I want to invite us to spend a moment on what has ended for you. You minister David Keyes was one of our elders. His memorial was on Thursday. One gift I carry from him came from the interim training the first time I took that training in 2000, before I even knew I was headed to Alabama. His core message to us was, don't underestimate grief. Don't underestimate grief. Grief is more powerful and more present than we ever truly know. Endings are more powerful and more present than we can guess. So I want to just take a moment and not rush on to the next thing, but I want to take a moment to invite you to think about some of the endings that have happened in the last year or so, or whatever endings come forward. I invite you to take an order of service, one of the pencils in the pews or something, one of the scratch pad papers, one of the joys and sorrows slips that we have in the pews, and make a list. Just a moment. Make a list of what has ended in the past year. If that physically helps to write that down. What has ended? What has stopped? Could be anything. Could be everything, small, great, things you thought you wouldn't think of again. Spend a moment just doing that in the quiet, and join me in this quiet for a minute. I'm sure that more will come. Thank you for taking this moment. And if you wrote on something physical, I invite you to pull out one of the hymnals I hope you have nearby, or if you're listening to us online, something with weight, something tangible. And put that list on top of the hymnal, just so there's a physical, tangible way to feel and recognize what has come up for you. For a moment of recognizing all that has ended. In this moment, in this place, may we honor all that has changed, all that has been, friends' lives, our lives, hearts broken, hearts in love, the struggle of seeing our world and wondering what will come, the ending of our disillusion, that we have some true struggles among us. For some endings, we offer gratitude and farewell and blessings as well, that those have let us be different than who we are for reasons that we needed and we didn't know, for reasons that we needed and we knew. In this moment, as we recognize and honor all the endings that are before us, may we hold ourselves and others in love in all of these transitions. Thank you. Of course, naming endings goes beyond this one moment. So let this be one more moment in the journey. I so appreciate Earth-centered traditions for reminding us about endings and beginnings, seasons and cycles. There was a chant, Kore chant, I had a chance to sing at the memorial for a member in a previous congregation. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. Changes, touches, touches, changes, changes, touches, touches, changes. But how do we, as people, navigate the changes in our lives? I appreciate the benefits of William Bridges, who is a author, educational consultant about what was called way back when, I think still called change management. And I love that his name is William Bridges for dealing with transitions. Yes, there is a good joke there. Yeah. He says, considering what we have to deal with, that we have to deal with endings all our lives, most of us handle them poorly. This is in part because we misunderstand them and take them either too seriously or not seriously enough. We take them too seriously by confusing them with finality, that it's all over, there's never more, it's finished. We see them as something without sequel, forgetting that they are the first phase of a transition process and a precondition of self-renewal. Endings, he says, are the first phase of a transition process and the precondition of self-renewal. And at the same time, we can also often fail to take them seriously enough. Because they scare us, we try to avoid them. How fast can I run from what's happening, what's ending? I so appreciate Bridges' work around change and transitions. What he talks about is that change is what happens, something that has a difference that has occurred, a shift in condition, person, whatever the context is. It's simply what has changed, what is no longer the same. What Bridges is trying to encourage us to engage with is to make a transition, to move intentionally or as fully conscious as we can from one ending into a beginning. He says beginnings involve new understandings and values and attitudes. They're marked by a release of energy in a new direction. Well-managed transitions allow folks to establish new roles with a sense of purpose, and you can feel restored and reoriented and renewed. But you got to go through the process first. And the process is what's called the neutral zone for William Bridges. And it's where we live, I think. It's where we actually live most of the time. Because after the letting go, after an ending, there is this moment, this liminal place between where what was and where what will be. And he calls it the neutral zone. It's this in-between time when the old is gone and the new is fully, not really operational. You get critical kind of realignment, psychological patternings take place. It's the very core of transition. This is the time between the old reality and the sense of the new identity. And it's an odd, disruptive kind of place. We're in flux. There's confusion, distress. It can feel like nothing is happening. It can feel like everything is happening. It can feel like we're actually just going backwards. We're just walking backwards here, and there's no progress to be made. Susan Beaumont, one of our wonderful church consultants, talks about this time as a liminal time from the Latin limen, threshold. That truly that bottom part of the doorway to enter when you go through a building. And I think I'm not alone in having that sense of that we that phenomenon that is truly a measured phenomenon. When we go from one room to another, we cross a threshold and forget where we're going. Forget what we were going to do, forget what was our purpose in getting up in the first place. All of that is part of that liminal neutral moment. And we do this in context. It can be in immediate context. It can be in seasons, like for example, looking for a new minister. It can be eras, epochs. And Susan offers that right now we are in a liminal epoch. A true larger scale shifting of all the things. And it's so hard to know. It's so hard to know where we're going, what we need to attend to. We know what we had in the past and what had been comfortable, familiar, what seemed to work, the wonderful things of like church and life and all kinds of good stuff. And now being in this moment, of still wondering where we're going to go. What I appreciate about Susan Beaumont in the idea of change is that she is responding to this particular time where William Bridges was talking about change management in a way that was where you kind of knew where you were going to go on the other side. You had a kind of from a corporate perspective, you knew what you were trying to attain going forward. But Susan Beaumont talks about and recognizes that we're kind of in the middle of not knowing where we're going to end up, not knowing exactly what we want, but knowing and still holding true to what is so important as well, still honoring, celebrating. It's still true that we can have a soup lunch and gather. It is still true that we want to be together in worship. It is still true that we want to be of service into the world. But in the larger, where are we going? It's still such a question. What I want to offer as we go forward into this time is much more can be said, of course, about change and where we're going, is that this is an opportunity for all of us to participate, to be present with each other, to be compassionate, to be humble, to be not knowing. One of the best things we can do is not know, and to be willing to be open about that with each other. Say, I know what, I can tell what's still important to me, but I'm not sure what to do with that. I'm not sure where we should go. I'm not sure how to do this together. We have opportunities to be in that not knowing and to listen to ourselves, to be in a place of humility, not be experts, and to be in a place of patience with ourselves and one another. All the while acknowledging when we are stuck, like the mouse and the crow. The mouse and crow was like, ooh, I've been there. I've certainly done that, where I had my hand around something so tight I couldn't let go and nothing was going to change until I did something else. I can't be the only one who recognized that. And was too hungry, too much in need to know what to do next, and was stuck. The challenges include that stuckness, that struggle, that anxiety. What's going to happen to all of us? Oh gosh, I know we're feeling it leading up to this week. Yes. Yeah, this week and the election, and who knows what will happen. I will also tell you that there is an other side. I don't know quite what that land looks like, but there is another side. I invite us to move at the speed that emerges and not at the speed of our anxiety. Let us be patient and present and do our best to learn to let new people in, to let ourselves be new people to ourselves, in fact. So let us go forward into this moment of change, into this liminal time. May we go forward and discover this new country, this new land, whatever that may be, in this beloved community that we know we also hope to bring and embody in our lives and in the larger world. Let us go forward in change. Amen. Please rise your body or spirit and join me for our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Thank you, Shirley. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And I close with a prayer for living intention from Joe Cherry. If we have any hope of transforming the world and changing ourselves, we must be bold enough to step into our discomfort, brave enough to be clumsy there, and loving enough to forgive ourselves and others. May we as a people of faith be granted the strength to be so bold, so brave, and so loving. Amen. Our worship is ended. Let our service begin.